All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Quest Mortgage webinar. And thank you for setting aside some time today. My name is Carlo, and I'm an educational specialist here at Quest Mortgage, and I'll be your host today. Hopefully, wherever you are watching this, the weather is good, and I hope you guys enjoy this webinar. So today's topic is the first-time homebuyer's guide to homeownership. We're joined by our in-house expert from the Quest Mortgage advisory team, Jamila. But before I introduce her, I'll just quickly run through a few notes. All right, now before we get into it, I'm just going to read this quick disclosure. You guys should probably see on your screen. The information and opinions in this educational materials are for informational purposes only and should not be used or construed as real estate, mortgage, financial, tax, or investment advice or recommendations by any individual. Rates and figures presented are for illustrative purposes only. And for more information, please refer to the Community Trust Company and Questrade's legal notices. Any information or testimonials relating to past performance does not guarantee future performance. Quest Mortgage is a service provided by CTC. Quest Mortgage licensed to CTC is a trademark of Questrade Incorporated, and Questrade Incorporated and CTC are subsidiaries of Questrade Financial Group. All right, and now without further ado, I'm pleased to introduce you to Jamila. Jamila is a mortgage advisor at Quest Mortgage and is an expert on all things mortgages and home buying. She will take you through the ins and outs of buying your first home. All right, that's a long introduction. With that said, let's start this webinar. I'll hand it off now to Jamila to get us started with our agenda today.
Okay, thank you, Carlo. Hi, everyone. My name is Jamila, and I'm here today to speak with you all about the exciting adventure of purchasing your first home. So I'll start by helping you determine if, firstly, you are ready to buy a home and the benefits of buying versus renting. Then we'll look at some cost considerations that you should keep in mind as you look to purchase your home. Following that, I'll break down the components that you'll need to know when it comes to financing your home, so things like fixed versus variable mortgage terms, the process of getting a pre-approval, and how the stress test may impact how you can qualify for a mortgage. Next, we'll look at down payment requirements, so things like the minimum down payment that's required based on your purchase price and some down payment resources you can use, including your RSPs and the exciting new first home savings account. We'll also look at some benefits that you may qualify for as a first-time home buyer. And finally, the most exciting part, we'll discuss how Quest Mortgage can help you as a first-time home buyer. So since a lot of us are still in the phase where we are considering buying or we're just starting the process off, let's take a look at if you are ready to buy a home. So buying a home will be one of the most important decisions and biggest investments you'll make. So it's really important that you consider if you are truly ready for home ownership. A few important things that you should consider before you begin your journey are, first, if you have a stable and secure income source, if you have a good and adequate credit score, your debts are under control, and you'll have the capacity to afford a mortgage with any future debts you may be planning to take on. You have a well thought out plan to move. It's also important for you to consider any lifestyle changes that may happen. So for example, things like maybe new additions to your family, which can add costs and may also require more space, or possibly needing to relocate for work. Lastly, you want to make sure that you have access to cash or savings for your down payment. Before you apply for a mortgage, it's also a good idea to know how much you can afford or what you can get approved for with a lender. On the Quest Mortgage website, we have an amazing tool that you can use to do just that. Our affordability calculator is a great tool for you to use to get an estimate of the maximum mortgage amount you can afford based on the income and expenses you enter into the calculator. Using this can help you budget for your purchase, as it does also tell you what your estimated payments will be based on our current rates. Please also note that the figures given through the affordability calculator are just an estimate. A full application will be required for an actual mortgage approval. Okay, and a lot of us that rent or live with family, we strive to become a homeowner one day, which I'm sure is why you're here today, to learn how you can put yourself in the best position to become a homeowner. Now, I also know that there are a lot of external pressures put on us to go out and buy a house as soon as possible, but it's really important that you consider all factors, because renting and buying a property both come with their own pros and cons. For example, when you buy a house, you have the benefit of building equity, which you can borrow against later on if needed. You can take advantage of the first-time homebuyer's amount, which is a credit you can claim when you become a first-time homeowner. You can build your credit. You improve your lifestyle stability since you will be committing to one location and will be in full control of when you want to leave that property rather than running the risk of a landlord selling the property or asking you to leave while you're staying there. You can choose what renovations and improvements can be made on the property in order to call it your own. And most importantly, you have a place you can call your home. On the contrary, though, when you do own a home, you are committed to one location. You have a lot more to consider when choosing to leave, such as preparing the property to be put on the market, hiring a real estate agent or a real estate lawyer. It's not as easy as just ending a lease and moving on to the next place. You'll also be responsible for all of the maintenance work and costs, so no more calling your landlord to fix a broken pipe. You will have greater upfront costs to purchase your home as well, which we'll speak about later on in the presentation. And when renting a property, some of the benefits you have are you have the freedom to move from one location to another since you're not committed to one property. You have smaller upfront costs. You have the major benefit of not being responsible for all of the maintenance work or some additional costs associated with homeownership, such as property taxes. And sometimes, honestly, a rental payment can be less than a mortgage payment. And of course, not everything is always sunshine. So on the renting side, you cannot do major renovations or improvements on the property without your landlord's approval. Making rental payments, unfortunately, do not build equity in the property to your benefit. And sometimes you may have to make the sacrifice of moving into a unit that you may not completely love just because of what's available on the market at the time. Okay. Now let's take a look at some of the considerations or other considerations you should have when you're looking to buy your first home. The first and typically the heavier cost that you'll need to consider is your down payment. Again, this is how much of the purchase price you'll be putting down out of pocket to buy the home. When you're looking to buy a home, you will need to make an offer to the seller with how much you would like to buy the home for, along with when you would like to take ownership of the property. So this would be considered as your closing date. When the seller accepts your offer, you'll typically need to make a deposit to them within 24 hours, and this deposit amount is taken from your total down payment given to the seller upfront upon acceptance of your offer. The remainder of your down payment will be given to the seller at closing. Before you close on a property, it's always in your best interest to have an inspection done. This way you have a full picture of any issues the home may have, and you can ask the seller to repair them prior to you taking possession of the property. The inspection will of course come with a cost, which you as the buyer are responsible for, unless you and the seller come to alternative agreements. As part of your mortgage application process, the lender may also request for an appraisal to be done on the property to determine the condition of the property and the value. And unless specified otherwise, this will be a fee that you are responsible for. One of the last costs you'll incur prior to your closing date will be for title insurance. So title insurance is an insurance policy that essentially protects owners and their lenders against any losses related to the property's title or ownership. On your closing date, you will be paying majority of your fees. So on this date, you'll need to pay your real estate lawyer, so your legal fees. You'll also need to pay a land transfer tax in order to register your name on title for the property, indicating that you have taken ownership of the property. If you're purchasing your first home in Ontario, you may also be eligible for a rebate on the land transfer tax through the government. If you're purchasing in Alberta or Saskatchewan, you're very lucky because this fee does not apply. However, you may have to pay smaller title registration fees. If your mortgage also requires mortgage default insurance based on your down payment amount, you may also need to pay your taxes on your CMHC default insurance upfront. Finally, if you're purchasing a new build property, there may be residual pre-construction fees that you'll need to pay to the builders on your closing date. When it comes to your total cost, your lenders will typically want to confirm that you have 1.5% of your purchase price in addition to your down payment in order to put towards your closing costs. However, on average, the actual cost that you'll incur excluding your down payment to your property is about 3 to 6% of your total purchase price. You'll also have ongoing costs, which you'll need to pay regularly, such as your mortgage payments, property taxes, which can differ depending on your province, municipality, and the property type, condo fees or maintenance fees if you're purchasing a condo or a property under a strata, other routine maintenance costs, such as changing filters, batteries, detectors, etc., your property or home insurance, mortgage creditor insurance, which is an optional coverage you can purchase that can help pay off your mortgage debt should an unexpected life event happen, such as critical illness, death, or disability, your utilities, solid waste disposal, phone, cable, and internet. You'll also have major repairs which tend to happen occasionally, such as shingle repairs or replacing your roof, window replacements or maintenance, water heater maintenance, landscaping, flooring repairs, or replacements. Okay, so now let's take a look at some other costs you should consider before buying your home. So your mortgage rate is basically the interest cost that is added to your principal or your borrowed amount by your lender. What that means for you is when you're making payments into your mortgage, whether it's monthly, semi-monthly, bi-weekly, or weekly, depending on the payment frequency that you choose, a portion of your payment will go towards your principal, so the amount that you're actually borrowing, and the rest will go towards your interest costs. This is why getting the lowest rate possible is in your best interest. That way more of your payment goes towards paying down your actual principal rather than just paying interest. And paying down your principal does also reduce your overall interest cost. When you're getting a mortgage, there are also two timelines that you're agreeing to. So the first timeline that you're agreeing to is your mortgage term. Majority of lenders will offer a range of terms from 1 to 5 years. Some may also offer more than that as well. Essentially, your term is the length of time that you're committing to your mortgage agreement for. With this agreement, you're guaranteed your given rate for the duration of the term if you're on a fixed term, or your rate discount from the prime rate if you're on a variable term. And I'll be doing a deeper dive into the differences between fixed and variables a little bit later on. The second timeline that you're agreeing to is your amortization period. So your amortization period is essentially representing the total life of your mortgage. In other words, it's the time frame that you're expected to pay off your mortgage in full by, given that you maintain your minimum scheduled payments. Amortization periods typically range between 25 to 30 years. However, this can always be reduced by increasing your payments or making lump sum payments into your mortgage. Another major factor that you want to consider, like we mentioned earlier, is your down payment. So your down payment is the percentage of the total purchase price of the home that you as the client or the purchaser will be paying to buy the home. So the difference between your purchase price and your down payment will come from your mortgage in order to make up the full purchase price to complete your deal. So, like we've talked about earlier, there are different terms that you can go into. There's fixed terms and variable terms. With a fixed term, or choosing a fixed term, your interest rate and your payments will be guaranteed and remain the same throughout the duration of the term that you choose. So the good thing with this is you're locking in your rate and you're protected from interest rate increases throughout your term. So you can easily budget for your payments since you know what they are and they won't be changing. So fixed terms are a great option if you just want to be able to make your mortgage payments and not have to worry about them. The other type of term that you can opt to go into is a variable term. So on a variable term, your rate is typically determined by the prime rate set by the Bank of Canada or by your lender. So, and you'll usually have a discount to this, or you may get a discount to the prime rate by your lender. With variable terms, you're not guaranteed the prime rate as this can fluctuate with the Bank of Canada, but you are guaranteed the discount, or what we call a spread, from the prime rate. Historically, although variable rates are more volatile as they can change at any time, they do tend to still remain lower than fixed rates. And if you feel like the prime rate is increasing to a point that you're not comfortable with, you may also be able to switch to a fixed term without a penalty. Variable terms are a great option if you are active in monitoring your mortgage and the interest rate. Something you should consider when it comes to submitting a mortgage application is something called the stress test. So the stress test was introduced back in 2018 to all mortgage applications, which indicated that lenders will have to qualify the borrowers at the higher rate of either the benchmark rate set by the Bank of Canada or your lender's rate plus 2%. This was done in an effort to ensure that if rates were to go up or if the individuals were to have any reductions in their income, they would not be overextended and would still be able to afford their mortgage payments. So just an example of what the stress test can look like. If you're looking to get a mortgage at the rate of, let's say, 4.5% we would actually have to qualify you on payments at an interest rate of 6.5%. So with that being said, the stress test can heavily impact and reduce the amount that you can qualify for on a mortgage, as your lender will need to qualify you at a higher rate and higher payments. So before we take a look at the actual resources you can use for your down payment, we're actually going to look at some of the minimum down payment requirements. So based on your purchase price, there is actually a minimum down payment required based on the government's regulations. So if you're purchasing a property of $500,000 or less, you're required to put a minimum of 5% down. So 5% of the total purchase price. So for example, if your purchase price is $400,000, 5% of that would be $20,000. Anything over $500,000, you'll be putting 5% down on your first $500,000 of the purchase price and 10% on the remaining balance. So if you're buying a home for $800,000, let's say, you'll be putting 5% on the first $500,000, which comes out to $25,000, and 10% on the remaining $300,000. So that's an additional $30,000, making your total minimum down payment required $55,000. For any property that's valued or the purchase price is $1 million or more, you're required to put at least 20% down of the purchase price. So if you're buying a property of $1 million, your 20% would equal $200,000. Also, the down payment that you put down is linked to something called the insurability of your mortgage. So what that means is if you're putting 20% or more down as your down payment, you're considered a low ratio mortgage. So you may not have to pay mortgage default insurance as part of your mortgage. High ratio mortgages are when you're putting less than 20% as your down payment. With this, mortgage default insurance is required, and that's essentially a premium that's added into your mortgage payments, which can range from 2.8% to 4% of your total mortgage amount. So just taking a look at the mortgage default insurance, let's say you're buying a home for $600,000 and you make a down payment of $60,000. So that's 10% of your total purchase price. Technically, your mortgage amount should be $540,000. The chart that you see in the middle of the screen, it's showing you a breakdown of the percentage that you're putting as your down payment versus the premium that you'll have to pay. So if we take a look at the third column where it says 10% or more, the premium added to your mortgage would be 3.1%. So this would mean that your mortgage default insurance premium would come out to an additional $16,740 on top of your mortgage amount, making your total mortgage $556,740. Also, one thing that we talked about at the beginning of the presentation was on your closing date, you may have to pay your CMHC default insurance taxes as well. So depending on where you're located, this can change or this can differ. Let's say you were living in Ontario, the taxes that would be added on the additional $16,740 would be $1,339, which again would be due on your actual closing date as part of your closing costs. Well, so since we already started talking about the RSPs and home buyers plan, let's talk about that first as one of your down payment resources. So with the home buyers plan, RSP account holders can withdraw up to $35,000 each out of their respective accounts, tax-free, to use towards purchasing a qualifying home. So if you're buying a home with another RSP account holder, you both would be able to withdraw up to $35,000 each. So for example, if there's two of you, you can withdraw a total of $70,000. You can withdraw funds from more than one RSP as long as you are the owner of each RSP account, and you can withdraw from your RSP under the home buyers plan, and you'll need to start repaying it in the second year from when you do the withdrawal, and you have a total of 15 years that you can make the repayments. So the minimum payment that will be due each year would be 1/15 of the total amount that you withdrew. Like a lot of you guessed as well, the funds do have to be in your RSP account for a minimum of 90 days before you can withdraw them under the home buyers plan. Okay. Some of the eligibility requirements for the home buyers plan are you must be considered a first-time home buyer, meaning that you nor your spouse or common law partner have owned or been on title for any other properties within the last 4 years leading up to your withdrawal. You must be a Canadian resident. You have to have a sales agreement to buy or build a qualifying home for yourself or for a relative with a disability. And you must intend to occupy the home as your principal residence within 1 year of the purchase or the build. If you're buying or building a home for a relative with a disability or helping a relative with a disability to buy or build a qualifying home, you must also intend that they will be occupying the home as their principal residence. So to give you an example of the repayments on the home buyer's plan, let's say you purchased a property in 2021 with another person, and neither of you have ever owned a home previously or been on title for a home previously. Between the two of you, you can withdraw a total of up to $70,000 through your RSPs. But let's say you borrowed $60,000. You would have to start repaying this amount in 2023, since that would be the 2-year mark after your withdrawal was made, and your minimum payment would have to be $4,000 per year to ensure the full $60,000 is repaid within the 15-year time slot. You can technically make additional payments or increase that repayment amount, but that 1/15 of the total amount borrowed is the minimum payment required. Repayments for the home buyer's plan are actually very simple. All you have to do is contribute the funds back into your RSP account. And when it comes time to you filing your taxes, there is a form that you'll need to complete to indicate how much of your RSP contributions for the year will be going towards the repayment itself. Okay. You can also receive gifted funds for your down payment from an arm's length family member, which is considered as a sibling, parent, or grandparent. Some lenders may also accept gifted funds from a spouse. So if you are using gifted funds towards your down payment, you will need to complete something called a gift letter, which will be provided to you by your lender. A gift letter is essentially just a document that indicates that the funds are intended to be a gift and do not require any repayment. And the gift letter will need to be signed by yourself and any other applicants, along with the person that is actually gifting the funds. Your lender may also require a bank statement showing that the gifted funds have been deposited into your account at least 15 days prior to your closing date of your purchase. Probably one of the most common sources used for your down payment will be your savings or your investment accounts. If you are using your savings or investment accounts towards your down payment, please keep in mind that your lender will require to see a history of your funds for at least 90 days. This would usually be done through your bank statements or investment statements. With that being said, just a little tip for you, if you know or you're starting the process of looking to purchase a property, it's a good idea for you to start accumulating all of your funds that you'll be using towards your down payment into one account. That way, when it comes time to you sending your documents to your mortgage advisor or to your lender, it'll be a lot easier for you to send statements for just one account rather than multiple accounts. And the first home savings account, also called the FHSA, is a new and exciting registered account now offered at Questrade that can help Canadians save for a down payment on their first home. The FHSA account allows you to contribute an annual tax deductible amount of up to $8,000 with a maximum lifetime contribution of $40,000 per person for a home purchase. The account combines the benefits of both an RSP and TFSA, so your contributions are tax deductible, and any qualifying withdrawals from the account can be used towards, or that is being used towards the purchase of your home, are tax-free. You can carry forward any unused contribution from the previous year up to a maximum of $8,000 per year on top of your annual contribution limit. So for example, if you're eligible to enroll for the account in 2022 and did not make any contributions, you would be able to contribute a maximum of $16,000 in 2023. This would be the annual limit of $8,000 allotted for 2023, plus the $8,000 allotted for 2022, which was unused. You can hold multiple FHSA accounts. If you are opening multiple accounts, please be mindful of the contributions that you're making so that you do not surpass your allowable limit, as penalties could apply for any over contributions. Unlike the home buyer's plan though, there is no repayment required when you withdraw funds from this account for your qualifying home, and you can withdraw funds from both your FHSA account and your RSP home buyer's plan account as long as it meets the requirements for a qualifying home for both respective accounts. Just some qualifying property details when it comes to the FHSA account is the property does have to be either a detached home, townhome, mobile home, a home that's currently being constructed, or an apartment or condo. With mobile homes, I would suggest that you also do look at the requirements of your lenders, as some lenders do mortgage mobile homes and some do not. Quest Mortgage, at this time, we do not mortgage mobile homes. The home cannot be empty land, so it can't be just empty land without a property being developed or already has an existing home on it. It cannot be a non-residential property such as storefronts or warehouses. It cannot be a home where you do not own the actual land rights. So when you are looking for home, you'll often hear something called freehold or leasehold. The properties do have to be a freehold home. It cannot be a vacation property that are not recognized as a principal residence, and it cannot be properties outside of Canada. Okay. I know we talked about the RSP home buyers plan and the FHSA accounts throughout the presentation, so let's just do a quick comparison to summarize it for you. The eligibility for both accounts, they're pretty much the same. So you have to be a Canadian resident, you have to be at least 18 years or older to start the account or make contributions to the accounts. And you do have to be a first-time home buyer in order to be eligible for it. With the FHSA account, you have an $8,000 annual contribution limit per person that you can use, or a maximum of $40,000 that you can contribute over your lifetime. The contribution limit with the RSPs is either going to be the lesser of 18% of your annual income from the previous year, or your annual RSP limit. Plus, you can contribute any unused amounts from your previous years as long as you're within the total RSP limit. The maximum that you can withdraw under the home buyers plan, though, is $35,000 per person. With the FHSA account, you are not limited to the amount that you can withdraw from that account. But with the home buyers plan, again, you are limited to the $35,000 per person. For both accounts, though, your qualifying withdrawals are tax-free for a qualifying home purchase. There is no repayment for the FHSA account, and with the home buyers plan, you have 15 years to repay the amount that you withdraw. Again, you do have a minimum payment of 1/15 of the total amount borrowed every year.
And that is about FHSA, which I think a lot of people would have questions, and that's for pre-construction condo. How does an FHSA contribution work for someone who bought a pre-con condo? Can they still contribute until the actual closing?
So if you've agreed to enter into an agreement to buy a pre-con home, and your home does qualify under the FHSA account, you can still contribute during the course of the construction period. Just be mindful, however, of the conditions of the qualifying withdrawals, where you should have a written agreement to buy or build a qualifying home with the acquisition or construction completion date of the home before October 1st of the year after the date of the withdrawal. So the final closings for a condo can be subject to delays from the target closing date. So this can cause you to go offside from the October 31st of the next calendar year. Essentially, you have 30 days to complete your purchase from when the withdrawal was made.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Jamila. We have another question here. My partner is going on MAT plus parental leave, which will impact our annual income for the next year or so. Will this have an impact on our pre-approval? Is it better to apply for pre-approval before going on the leave?
That's a very situational question because there's a couple of things to consider. So if you are on mat leave or parental leave, we can still consider your income just as long as you can provide the employment letter confirming your base salary and that you are on leave with an expected return to work date. So that would be the minimum income that we can use. Now, if you apply for the pre-approval prior to going on your leave, you can definitely put in your full income. The only thing that can happen, though, is depending on when you put in your full application. If there is a change and you're on your mat or parental leave at the time of your full application when you weren't during your pre-approval, that can impact the income because, like I said, we'll only collect your documents during the full application period. And at this time, if your letter of employment shows that you're on mat leave, we would have to use your base income. So it is a little bit situational on when you submit the pre-approval versus the full application.
Awesome. Thanks, Jamila. We have another one here, which is for gift certificate, rather gifting options. So are there tax implications when you use gift options?
No. So I don't know if you mean if you have to claim taxes on it as part of your income. If that's the question, then no. You also don't have to pay any taxes on the amount. It's literally just the person that's gifting you the funds transferring them to your account.
Awesome. Alrighty, guys. Thank you for sending those questions. And again, thank you, Jamila, for answering those questions. Some can be quite, again, situational. So thanks for providing some of your input. All right, let's move on to the next few slides. We're almost done, but we still have a few slides, and that is to cover some programs for first-time home buyers. Take it away, Jamila.
Okay, perfect. So for first-time home buyers, there are definitely quite a few benefits in addition to the home buyers plan and FHSA accounts that we've already talked about. There's also other programs designed to help you get some of your money back as part of your purchase. Please note that all of the listed programs in the next couple of slides are subject to terms and conditions, and please also ensure that you are eligible for each program when you are applying. So the first one that we'll talk about is the GST and HST new housing rebate. Depending on your province and personal situation, you may be eligible for an GST or HST rebate. This can apply if you buy a newly built home, make significant renovations to an existing home, or rebuild a home that was destroyed. The rebate allows you to recover some of the GST or HST taxes that you spent on goods and services for these projects. You may also be eligible for a rebate on some of the land transfer taxes if you live in Prince Edward Island, BC, or Ontario. If you're buying a home in Toronto, you have a major bonus of possibly receiving a rebate of up to $4,475 for the municipal land transfer tax. First-time home buyers purchasing a qualifying home can also claim up to $10,000 non-refundable credits for yourself and your spouse or common law partner. This would come with a rebate totaling $1,500. Once again, please remember that you do your own research to make sure that you are eligible for any of these programs mentioned, and they are subject to terms and conditions. Finally, the time for the big question is, how can we as Quest Mortgage help you in your home buying process? Our trademark is Quest Mortgage Better Rate Mortgages, which means the rates you see on our website are the rates that you can expect to get. So no jumping through hoops or guessing games, just our better rate. Our application process is completely online, so you can easily apply from the comfort of your home and access your mortgage anytime you'd like. We also have a team of dedicated mortgage advisors that are available to you when you need them. As mentioned earlier in the presentation, we have our affordability calculator, which is a great tool for you to use to get an estimate of the maximum mortgage amount you can afford based on the income and expenses you enter into the calculator. Using this can help you budget for your purchase, as it does also estimate your payments based on our current rates.
Awesome. Thank you again, Jamila, for those ones. And thanks for everyone for your participation today. We'll now move on to our live question and answer period, where the focus is on you. Alrighty, guys, a lot of questions here. A lot of questions as well for first-time home buyers. Sorry, for FTHB. Sorry, not for FTHB, but FHSA, First Home Savings Account. We also have a very, very helpful articles on Quest. We have some Q&A articles there, especially if you have very specific questions. We do have that there. Also, just some overview about FHSA, which can be very, very helpful, just to be mindful of that. We do have that. So I believe our Quest Mortgage Support team will be able to share those links to you guys. All right. So with that said, we do have a question about FHSA. Can my partner and me have our own account for FHSA? I believe he or she meant FHSA, and then use both accounts together to buy their first home.
Yes, you can withdraw out of your respective accounts.
And then maybe in terms of FHSA, again, for withdrawal, we have a question here, which is how many months should the fund stay in FHSA before you can use it?
So there's no necessary minimum amounts or length of time that the funds have to be in your FHSA account, unlike the RSP account. Depending on where you are holding your account, keep in mind there might be a settlement period for where the funds have to settle before you can actually withdraw them. But there is no minimum time frame.
Alrighty. Thanks, Jamila. We do have another question here. If my partner lives in a home that I owned, but she has never owned a home, can she open an FHSA account?
If you or your spouse own a home, the other person will unfortunately become ineligible to open or hold the FHSA account.
And then we do have another FHSA questions here. Again, great questions about FHSA. We do have articles in our Questrade website under learning. If you guys can take a look at that one as well. So does FHSA room carry over every year? Let's say I open it in 2023 and don't make first contributions until 2028. Can they still contribute, like carry over contributions?
No, they can't. So you're only carrying over the unused contribution room from your previous year. So the total would be in 1 year that you can contribute would technically be 16,000, 8,000 from the current year, 8,000 from the previous year, if no contributions were made in the previous year.
Alrighty. And then we have a question here, which I think a lot of people are also wondering. What is considered a good credit score that can get me a mortgage?
So there is a lot to consider when it comes to the credit bureau. What we would recommend for the credit score specifically would be to maintain a credit score of a minimum of 680.
Then a few more questions here. In terms of like income, I guess, do you help people who are self-employed or own a business get a mortgage? Is that something that Quest Mortgage can do?
Yes, so we do work with self-employed individuals. With self-employed individuals, we are only able to use your personally claimed income though, so not your overall business income. And we do look at the previous 2 years. The income that we can use will depend on the amount that you earned in the last 2 years. If the most recent year was lower, we would use the lower amount. If the most recent year was higher than the previous year, we would have to use an average of the 2 years.
Alrighty, I think this one is also good. So how does lump sum payments work once you start a mortgage?
That's a really good question. So with lump sum payments, every lender will have their own percentage that you can put down every year. With us, it's 20% lump sum payments. So what that means is you can put down 20% of your original mortgage balance at the beginning of the term every single mortgage year. So it's not based on a calendar year, it would be within your mortgage anniversary year. The 20% is what you can put down without any penalties to bring down your principal and reduce your overall interest cost. If you do happen to go above the 20% though, that's when penalties may apply.
Alrighty, thanks, Jamila. We have a question here, which I remember I had this same question before. So if mortgage rates is only usually 1 to 5 years, so it's the term, but most amortizations are 25 to 30, does that mean you need to go through all the approval processes again for mortgage every 5 years or so?
With us, no. So the renewals, essentially what happens with a lot of lenders, again, some lenders, they are a little bit different. But majority of lenders, what they'll do is they'll send you a renewal offer a few months before your actual renewal term. All you have to do is choose the term and the rate that you'd like to go into. So there's no application process or requalification process.
Awesome. Thanks, Jamila. I guess I'll just quickly run through one more question here. Actually, two. Let's do that too. How do you calculate affordability if you have a bonus or commission income? This is important as well, because commission, if we can add it, why not? Or other bonuses.
Yes. So with bonus or commission, same thing would apply for overtime as well. If you're looking to put it towards your total income, we would need a 2-year history of that income though. So you would have had to earn that bonus, commission, or overtime within the last 2 years. Similar to what I said with the business income as well, if your most recent year of the total income, so base salary and additional income, is lower in the most recent year, we would have to use the lower amount. If it's higher, we would use an average of the 2 years. But the most important thing is that that income was earned for at least 2 years.
Thanks, Jamila. And then one more to end this Q&A period for everyone. Again, I wanted to say thank you to everyone for sending your questions. Very, very great questions. We're going to be asking one more poll after this Q&A period, which can potentially help you with some of your questions and clarification. So the last question is, will Quest Mortgage match a lower rate? That's very important, I would say, as well.
Well, we do strive to be competitive in the market, so we definitely want to offer the best rates possible. What I can say is if you do receive a better offer elsewhere, you can definitely let your mortgage advisor know, and we'll look into the best rates or offers that we have to give.
Alrighty. Well, thank you so much, Jamila, Safa, Arman, Michael, Will, and also John. And thanks to everyone for attending and participating today. Again, thank you all. Thanks very much, Jamila, and enjoy the rest of the afternoon. Goodbye now.